Imagine drifting into sleep without carrying any weight from yesterday. No more endless spirals of thought, no urge to fix what has already happened. Only peace, a true peace, rising from deep within you. But be honest with yourself. How many nights have you been trapped inside your own mind? How many nights have you replayed old conversations, worried over situations long gone, or tried to control things that were never in your hands? The way you let go at night will shape the quality of the life you wake up to tomorrow. If you fall asleep in acceptance, in stillness, guided by the right teachings, you will rise lighter, clearer, and more connected to what truly matters. But if you go to bed in resistance, clinging to the need to control what cannot be controlled, you carry that battle into the morning before the new day even begins. Tonight, you will learn to release, not by forcing, not by pretending that everything is fine, but through understanding, through the Buddhist wisdom that has been preserved for centuries. Because peace does not come from control, it comes from letting go. These words are not just gentle lines meant to help you sleep. They are tools of transformation, ancient truths with the power to free your mind, soothe your emotions, and guide your soul. Before we begin, make a quiet promise to yourself. You can whisper it in your mind, or if you are listening online, you can write it down in the comments. Say, "Tonight, I release what I cannot control. I choose peace." As you repeat these words, you are not speaking an empty phrase. You are opening the door to freedom. The more you repeat, the more your nervous system remembers this state of peace, and each time it becomes easier to return. Say it now, then let your body soften, because tonight your mind will finally be able to rest, and we will begin this journey together. We begin with one of the heaviest but most invisible burdens, the emotions of other people. So many of us go to bed exhausted, not from our own battles, but from carrying the storms of those around us. And this is where the journey of release truly begins. There is a quiet kind of suffering that rarely gets acknowledged. It is not dramatic, it does not cry out loud, but you feel it in the tightening of your chest when someone close to you is upset. It shows up in the urge to fix, to smooth, to make things better, to the point where you silence your own needs just so the other person does not fall apart. In those moments, your peace becomes a performance. You take on the role of the one who holds the sky steady, the one who must keep everything from breaking so others will not feel the rain. But the price is your own emotional freedom. Buddhist wisdom helps unravel the false belief that compassion means control, that to care for someone, you must carry their feelings. But real compassion is not a chain. True compassion comes with boundaries. Tonight, I want you to understand this. Love is not measured by how much pain you absorb. It is measured by how free both people feel in each other's presence. The teachings remind us that every being carries their own karma, their own lessons, their own path, and their own emotional weather. No matter how close you are, their pain is still theirs to feel, to face, and to learn from. Trying to take it away not only steals their growth, but drains your soul in the process. Remember, a cloud can offer shade, but it was never meant to carry the entire sky. The first step is awareness. A subtle inner shift when you notice the moment you cross the line. When you stop listening and start fixing. When your response no longer comes from love, but from fear that the other person might be upset. That is when silent compassion has turned into control. Many people believe they are helping by carrying someone else's emotions. But help that empties your own peace is not real help. It is only entanglement. Buddhism teaches that the strongest way to help is through presence without pressure. To sit beside someone in their storm without becoming the storm yourself. To hold space but not hold responsibility. Emotional boundaries do not cut off connection. In fact, they protect true connection. They say, "I am here with you," but they do not say, "I will live this experience for you." That is the quiet power, the power of knowing when to speak and when to stay silent. The power of stopping before you try to save the whole room. because that impulse often hides a deeper wound, the fear that you will not be needed if you are not rescuing. True compassion is different. It does not have to be dramatic. It does not have to be grand. It trusts in the growth of the other person. It understands that pain is not always a problem to be solved, but often a teacher. And that means allowing someone to learn through their own experience. Buddhism never asks you to stop caring. It simply teaches you how to care without losing yourself. That is why the breath matters so much in Buddhist practice. The breath brings you back to your center. When someone is suffering and you begin to feel overwhelmed, let the breath remind you, this feeling is not me. This pain may pass through me, but it does not need to live inside me. Breathe in, breathe out. Stay with yourself, even while sitting beside another. And when you stop holding on to what was never yours to begin with, something unexpected arises in the space that remains: stillness. Not the outer silence of a quiet room, but a deep inner silence. A kind of peace that does not need to be searched for, because it was already there. For when you no longer absorb the chaos of others, you will face something even harder: the chaos within yourself. And this is where the real practice begins. It is no longer about separating yourself from other people. It is about learning to stand steady when your own mind begins to shake. Imagine a lake. On the surface lies the whole of life, waves stirred by the winds of stress, loss, change, and uncertainty. Most of us live on that surface, always reacting, spinning, and being carried away by the storm called life. But beneath the surface is another world, a depth untouched by wind, even when the surface is in turmoil. And the goal is not to avoid the waves, but to drop anchor deep enough to live from that place. Meditation in Buddhism is not an escape. It is not a temporary vacation from life. It is a training ground for stability, a place where you slow down, become steady, and return to your own center. You do not need to fight the noise. You simply stop clinging to it. You sit, you breathe in, you breathe out. Thoughts rise, thoughts pass. At first, you may feel like a failure because your mind screams, judges, and pulls you everywhere. But this practice is not about making your mind silent. It teaches you that you do not have to follow the noise. Each breath becomes an anchor. It reminds you that the mind may move, but you do not have to move with it. Thoughts may spin, but you can remain still. And the longer you sit, the clearer you see. Most of the tangles you carry are not from the outer world, but from your own reactions to it. In Buddhist teachings, this stillness is called samatha, the calm of the mind, like a lake at rest. But you cannot force it. You cannot demand peace. You can only relax into it, gently, patiently. The harder you chase it, the more it escapes. But the moment you stop demanding and simply allow things to be as they are, the water begins to settle. Thoughts are not the enemy. Emotions are not the enemy. Even pain is not the enemy. If there is an enemy at all, it is only the forgetting that you are greater than all of these. The Buddha once said, "The mind is like a lake. When the water is agitated, the reflection is unclear. But when it becomes still, everything is reflected as it truly island." Meditation does not change the world. It changes how you see the world. It restores your clarity. It shows you what is real and what is only the storm of conditioned thoughts. This stillness does not mean apathy or inaction. It means acting from a deeper place, not driven by fear or haste. From that state, even the hardest decisions can be made with calm and kindness, because you are not choosing from panic, you are choosing from presence. For practice, consistency matters more than intensity. You do not need to meditate for hours. What you need is to return to the breath again and again. Even 5 minutes of full attention can become a sacred ritual. The breath is the bridge between body and mind. It calms the nervous system, slows the spin of thought, and opens a space between impulse and reaction. And in that space, you find true power. Some days, the storm inside you will be stronger. Old memories may rise, future worries may pull at you, but each storm is only a test. Where have you dropped your anchor? If your anchor is tied to outcomes, opinions, or ego, you will be swept away. But if it is tied to breath, to presence, to pure awareness, you will stand firm. This is the practice of non-reactivity. And non-reactivity is not passivity. It is one of the strongest disciplines a human being can develop, because the world will always provoke you. Others may misunderstand you. Life will shake you, but you do not have to shake with it. Stillness proves that your peace does not depend on outer conditions. Have you ever noticed that your breath mirrors the exact state of your inner world? When you are anxious, the breath is short and shallow. When you are angry, it becomes heavy and hot. But when you are calm, the breath naturally grows deeper, slower, and softer. In Buddhism, the breath is not just a biological function, it is the bridge between body and mind, and it is also the key to letting go. Every time you exhale, you have a chance to release a layer of tension. Every time you inhale, you invite peace to return. There is one important truth. You cannot control the flow of life, but you can always return to your breath. When you practice this over and over, you are training your nervous system to return to its natural state of balance. Modern science has caught up with this wisdom. A study at Harvard found that practicing mindfulness and breathing can reduce stress by as much as 30% in just 8 weeks. Scientists explain that mindful breathing decreases the activity of the amygdala, the brain's alarm center, while activating the areas of the brain linked to calm and self-control. This means that every time you sit and become aware of your breath, you are not only soothing your mind, you are literally reshaping your brain so that peace becomes your default. Buddhism has taught this for thousands of years. The Buddha once said, "When walking, know that you are walking. When breathing, know that you are breathing. When living, know that you are living." So simple. And yet within that simplicity lies the secret of letting go. You do not have to force your thoughts or emotions away. You simply return to the breath. One cycle of inhaling and exhaling becomes a reminder that you are not bound to the storm inside your head. You only need to loosen your grip, and the sky opens again behind the clouds. Imagine a sleepless night in New York City. Car horns outside the window, work deadlines chasing each other in your mind. In that moment, you place a hand on your belly, feel the rise and fall of your breath. You do not need to fix the world. You only need to stay with the natural rhythm of your body. And what happens? Bit by bit, the heartbeat slows, the body begins to release. The mind stops spinning in circles of control. This is the practice of letting go in each breath. Not letting go of a whole life in one night, but letting go layer by layer, rhythm by rhythm, moment by moment. Many people in America come to meditation not because of religion, but because of science. They see the data, the research, the results. But that only confirms what the Buddha taught has always been timeless. When you release a long breath, you are training both body and mind to remember, it is all right. I do not need to control everything. Life can move on its own. I can rest. And in that rest, you discover a quiet kind of strength, the strength of a person who no longer needs control in order to feel safe. In the Diamond Sutra, there is a famous line, "Let your mind arise without dwelling anywhere." It means, allow the mind to cling to nothing, and from that place, wisdom is born. This is the essence of non-self, the freedom from grasping at the ideas of me, mine, or for me. Because the very moment we hold tightly to the self, to the belief that things must belong to us, suffering arises. Think back to the nights when you could not sleep. What kept you awake? Was it not the stories circling again and again in your head? Where did I go wrong? Do they think badly of me? What will happen tomorrow? If I do not control this, everything will collapse. Every one of those stories revolves around one main character, the self. But non-self does not mean you do not exist, or that you must disappear. It simply means you are not every role playing in your head. You are not just your successes or failures. You are not just your worries or your hopes. You are part of a flow much wider than all of that. And when you see this clearly, sleep becomes lighter, because you no longer need to guard that imaginary self. You no longer need to defend or control. Take a simple example. In America, many people tie their worth to productivity. If they do less in a day, they feel less valuable. But this is only a label of the self. When you drop that label, you realize your value is not in how many emails you answered or how many projects you finished. Your value is in your presence, in your breath, in the heartbeat still pulsing within you. Practicing non-self in daily life does not mean abandoning work or responsibility. It means doing everything with lightness, without identifying it as I. You can do well without clinging. You can fail without letting failure define you. When you lie down at night, you can whisper to yourself, "What I have done today, I release. What I have not done, I release as well. Not because I do not care, but because I know I am not those things." Do you see? This is non-self in everyday life. And through non-self, the mind can finally rest. No longer a self straining to hold on. No longer a self trying to control the whole world. In that release, sleep becomes a sacred act. Not just rest for the body, but rest for the self. A monk once said, "The deepest sleep does not come when the body is exhausted, but when the mind has nothing left to hold." If you have ever experienced a night when the mind truly let go, you know the difference. In the morning, you do not just wake rested, you wake with a sense of openness, unbound and free. This is the gift of the Diamond Sutra. It reminds us that when we do not cling, the mind is free. And in that freedom, you enter a peaceful sleep not only for the body, but for the soul. To see more clearly that the wisdom of non-self is not just a philosophical idea, let me share a real story from right here in the United States. Sarah, a project manager in San Francisco, once shared that she struggled with insomnia for many years. Every night, her mind spun in circles. If I do not finish the report, the team will fail. If I do not control this detail, people will think I am weak. If I am not perfect, I will lose my position. These thoughts became chains. Sarah lived in constant tension, and even when she closed her eyes in bed, she carried the office in her mind. One day, she attended a short meditation session at a community center. The instructor read a line from the Diamond Sutra, "Let go of what cannot be held." That phrase struck something deep in Sarah's heart. She began a small nightly practice. Before sleep, she would write down 3 things she had done that day, then whisper to herself, "I am not my work. I am not my success or my failure. I am simply this breath." At first, her mind resisted. She felt guilty for letting go, but after a few weeks, she noticed something. She fell asleep faster, slept more deeply, and in the morning she did not feel lazy. She felt clearer, more creative. Sarah did not abandon her job. She still worked hard, but she no longer identified herself with her work. When a project failed, it was no longer, "I have failed." It was simply, "The project failed." When success came, it was no longer, "I am great," but just a shared result. This is the power of non-self in everyday life. It does not make you irresponsible. It frees you from the weight of ego, so you can show up fully in both work and life. And Sarah is not alone. Many studies in American companies have shown that employees who practice mindfulness and non-self experience less burnout, less anxiety, and greater satisfaction with their work. Because when you stop equating your identity with your role, you can rest even when the work is unfinished. You can apply this tonight, when the mind tells you, "If I do not worry, everything will collapse." Pause. Place a hand on your chest and say, "I do not need to control everything. I am more than these thoughts." Non-self is not just a philosophy. It is a way of healing, a medicine for the modern mind. And with each breath, each pause, you open a new path, the path of lightness, of peaceful sleep, and of a brighter tomorrow. Now, Let us move into practice something you can begin tonight, just 5 minutes before sleep. No scented candles, no special room required, only you, your breath, and a small willingness to let go. Sit comfortably on your bed or lie down if you prefer. Gently close your eyes, place your hand on your belly or chest. Inhale slowly, filling your chest with air. Exhale, and as you exhale, imagine setting down one burden from the day. It might be an unfinished conversation, an unanswered email, a vague fear. You do not need to solve it. You simply allow it to drift away with the out-breath. Repeat. Inhale, peace flows in. Exhale, the burden flows out. And if your mind wanders, that is all right. Gently bring it back to the breath. This is not practice for perfection. This is practice for letting go. You may add a simple mantra. I release what I cannot control. I choose peace. Let this phrase become the rhythm of your breathing. Just 5 minutes. Many scientific studies have shown that even this short habit can significantly reduce stress hormones and improve the quality of sleep. Hospitals across the United States even encourage cancer patients to practice mindful breathing as part of their recovery. That shows the power of a single breath is never small. And here is an invitation for you, a 7-day letting go challenge. Each night before sleep, spend 5 minutes with your breath. Release one thing you cannot control, just one each time. Write it down or share your experience after 7 days. You may be surprised to find that after only a week, your body relaxes more easily, your mind spins less, and your mornings arrive more gently. You no longer wake up feeling like you are stepping into battle, but as though you are stepping into a new day with an open heart. In Buddhism, this is called daily meditation practice. It does not need to be long, it does not need to be complicated. What matters is consistency. A little each day, like drops of water falling on stone, eventually wears through. Each night you let go a little, and over time, your mind learns to let go naturally, even when you are not trying. Are you ready for this challenge? To understand why a simple practice like 5 minutes of breathing carries such great power, let us look at the journey of Buddhism as it spread to America. Buddhism first arrived in the United States at the end of the 19th century, brought by scholars, Asian immigrants, and traveling monks. But it was not until the mid-20th century, when figures like Thich Nhat Hanh, Shunryu Suzuki, and D.T. Suzuki introduced Zen and mindfulness, that Americans truly began to embrace it. During his visit to America in the 1960 seconds, Thich Nhat Hanh spoke a sentence that touched the hearts of millions. Peace is not the absence of war. Peace is the ability to live calmly in the midst of war. These words were not only meant for battlefields, but also for each individual, the battlefield of stress, of pressure, of restless nights. Americans live in a society that is fast, competitive, and always racing forward. Yet within this quickened pace, they began to notice a void, the absence of peace, and meditation, mindfulness, became the bridge. Today, more than 35 million Americans have practiced meditation at least once. Major companies like Google, Apple, and Nike include meditation and mindfulness in their employee training. Many American hospitals combine meditation with medical therapy to support healing. Why? Because meditation does not require religious belief. It is a life skill, a way of returning to the present. Americans approach meditation from many directions, through religion, through science, or simply from the need to find peace in a noisy world. What is remarkable is that when Buddhism spread to America, it did not lose its roots. Instead, it was interpreted in a modern way, close to Western life, while keeping its essence. That is why so many Americans, even if they do not call themselves Buddhists, are practicing and benefiting from Buddhist wisdom every single day. And you, right now, are part of this same stream. As you sit here listening, as you breathe, as you let go, you are not only practicing for yourself, you are part of a tradition flowing across thousands of years, from India, China, Vietnam, and Japan, all the way to New York, Los Angeles, and every corner of America. This is living proof that truth is timeless. When a teaching can move across borders, languages, and cultures, yet still touch the human heart, it shows that it is alive. And the wisdom of letting go, the wisdom of non-self, is exactly such a truth. Remember, you do not have to become a Buddhist to practice meditation. You only need to breathe, to release, to allow the mind to rest. And in doing so, you join a stream of healing that has helped millions of Americans rediscover peace. There is a burden deeper than most, one that has kept countless Americans awake through the night. Loss. It may be the loss of a loved one, a relationship, a job, or even the loss of health or youth. When faced with loss, the mind often refuses to let go. It clings, it resists, it asks, "Why me? Why did this happen?" In Buddhism, the truth of impermanence reminds us, everything that is formed will eventually change. The world does not move according to the wishes of one individual self, but according to the universal law of arising, abiding, fading, and dissolving. But to understand impermanence does not mean we stop feeling pain. It simply helps us see that suffering is not a mistake. It is a natural part of the human journey. When you lose someone you love, the wave of grief that rises is natural. But clinging to the thought that this should not have happened is what keeps you awake at night. The Buddha once taught, "All things dear and precious will change and vanish." Holding them as though unchanging is the root of suffering. When you truly understand this, your heart can cry and still remain open. You allow loss to teach you the value of each moment, instead of chaining you to regret. Imagine an elderly woman in America who has just lost her lifelong partner. That first night, lying alone in an empty bed, the pain feels suffocating. But then, instead of resisting, she whispers, "I know that life and death are only two movements of one long breath." She holds the memories close, but does not cling, and slowly, sleep returns, like a gentle act of acceptance. From the Buddhist view, death is not the end. It is transformation, like a candle that burns out, but whose light continues to spread. When you release the grasping at the idea of forever, you begin to see love does not vanish when someone departs. It only changes form, becoming memory, gratitude, and a new way of living. In the quiet moments before sleep, you can practice this. Place a hand on your heart. As you inhale, say to yourself, "I know everything is impermanent." As you exhale, say, "I release my resistance." Each breath becomes a reminder that loss does not erase love. It only reminds you to love more fully while you still can. And this brings peace, not the peace of never feeling pain, but the peace of a heart that accepts and still stays open, a peace strong enough to let you rest, even with tears still on your pillow. One of the hardest things to let go of is love, because love touches the most tender part of us, the place that longs to be seen, to feel safe, to hold on forever. But for that very reason, love can so easily become a chain. How many times have you tried to control the person you love, not out of selfishness, but out of fear of losing them? How many times have you thought, if they do not do what I want, this love will disappear? In Buddhism, this is called love based on fear, a love that clings, that worries, that grasps, and ultimately ends up hurting itself. True love is different. It is not about holding someone tightly so you can feel less anxious. It is about opening your heart, trusting that each person has their own journey. The Buddha taught, "You may conquer thousands on the battlefield, but the true hero is the one who conquers himself." In love, conquering yourself means conquering the fear of loss, conquering the urge to control. Imagine a couple in Los Angeles. The husband wants his wife to always be happy, so he tries to arrange everything, the meals, the weekend plans, even her moods. But the more he does, the more suffocated they both feel. One day, he comes across the Buddha's teaching, Love is not possession, it is presence. So instead of trying to fix his wife's sadness, he simply sits beside her, silent, listening. And something remarkable happens. She feels more loved than ever, because she is not being controlled, she is simply allowed to be herself. That is real love. It does not say, "Without me, you will fall apart." It says, "You are strong enough to walk through your own storm, and I will be here, beside you." This is love that heals. You can practice this too. When you see someone you love in pain, instead of asking, "What can I do to make them happy?" take a deep breath and ask, "What will help me be fully present right now?" Sometimes the answer is just a hand to hold, a listening ear, a space without judgment. Buddhism calls this wise compassion care that does not drain you, but makes you steady. It allows you to love without binding, to care without controlling. And in relationships like this, even your sleep becomes deeper, because you no longer need to hold the sky steady for someone else. You can simply be the vast sky where the clouds pass through, but the sky remains whole. There is a silent kind of control that many of us in America carry with us every night, self-criticism toward our own bodies. You lie down in bed, and instead of relaxing, the mind begins to whisper, "Why do I look older? Why is my body not the same as before? Why am I not strong enough, not beautiful enough, not young enough?" These whispers become an invisible weight, heavier than any noise outside, keeping you from sleep. Buddhism reminds us that this body is the most loyal companion we will ever have. From the day you were born until now, it has never left you, not for a single moment. It has carried you through millions of steps, thousands of moments. It holds the scars from when you fell, the wrinkles from when you laughed, and the aches from when you worked too hard to care for others. And yet, so often, instead of gratitude, we punish the body with comparison and disdain. In the scriptures, the Buddha taught, "This body is impermanent, it is born, it ages, it becomes ill, it dies." But it is precisely through impermanence that we have the chance to practice wisdom and compassion. In other words, the body is not a burden, it is the vessel that carries you across the river of life. Every wrinkle, every sign of age is not a failure, it is proof that you have truly lived. Imagine a woman in New York who looks in the mirror each night, sighing at the lines around her eyes. But one evening, she tries a simple practice. She places her hand gently on that wrinkled skin, closes her eyes, and whispers, "Thank you. Thank you for letting me laugh. Thank you for letting me love. Thank you for living long enough to bear the marks of time." That night, for the first time in months, she sleeps deeply. Not because the wrinkles disappeared, but because she stopped fighting herself. You can practice this tonight. Before sleep, instead of letting the mind criticize, whisper a word of gratitude to your body. "Thank you, heart, for beating all day without rest. Thank you, legs, for carrying me everywhere. Thank you, eyes, for showing me the beauty of this world." When you replace criticism with gratitude, the body begins to soften. It is no longer held inside the courtroom of the mind. It is embraced within appreciation, and in that embrace, sleep becomes gentle. In America, many psychological studies have shown that practicing gratitude journaling, writing down 3 things you are thankful for before bed, can improve sleep quality and reduce depression. Buddhism has taught this for centuries, in the simple practice of contemplating the body with gratitude. So tonight, before you close your eyes, try letting go of criticism. Replace it with a thank you, and you will see that the body is not just a shell, it is a living home worthy of love. There is an image that Buddhism often uses to describe relationships: the river. Because the river never stands still, it is always changing. The flow you see today is not the same flow from yesterday, and tomorrow it will be different again. And yet, we often suffer in our relationships precisely because we try to keep them unchanged. Have you ever wished that your partner, your family member, or your friend would always remain as they once were, always gentle, always understanding, always by your side as before. And when they change, as every river must change, you feel hurt, betrayed, or unsettled. Buddhism reminds us, every relationship is impermanent. This does not make love less, it makes love more real. Because when you know the river will flow, you cherish each moment it passes by, instead of demanding that it stay forever still. Imagine a father in Chicago. When his son was small, the boy would hug him tightly every night. But as he grew, he longed for freedom, for adventure. At first, the father felt empty, convinced that his son's love had changed. But then he remembered the Buddha's teaching. Love does not cling, love lets go. He began to see his son as a river, always flowing, always new, and instead of holding tight, he chose to walk alongside. The result was a deeper bond, because it was no longer trapped in an old form. Relationships in America, whether friendships, marriages, or work connections, often carry the weight of expectation. You must always be there when I need you. You must always think the way I do. You must never change. But these expectations are the very ropes that make both people feel suffocated. When you let go of expectation, you open space for truth. You allow others to change, to grow, and sometimes even to move away without turning it into betrayal. And you allow yourself to stop straining to meet their expectations. In the scriptures, the Buddha taught, all attachment brings suffering. When you see impermanence, you find freedom. If you bring this into your relationships, you will see that love does not vanish when expectation dissolves. On the contrary, it becomes purer. It no longer depends on, you must be this way. It becomes simply, I appreciate you in this moment. Tonight, before you sleep, try a small meditation. Close your eyes. Think of someone dear to you. Instead of holding on to the old image of them, let them flow like a river. Whisper to yourself, you change and I change, but love does not disappear, it flows with us. When you learn to see relationships as rivers, you no longer lie awake asking, why are they not who they used to be? Instead, you simply smile, because you know that real love is not about holding water still, it is about learning to drift with the current. One of the biggest reasons Americans lie awake at night is the pressure of productivity. Modern society whispers in our ears, you are only valuable if you never stop working. The busier you are, the more important you are. If you slow down, you will fall behind. And what is the result? Many people go to bed with unfinished to-do lists running through their minds. Instead of relaxing, they calculate, plan, check emails, and scroll through their phones late into the night. Buddhism points out that this is the illusion of a self built on achievement. When we tie our worth to the number of hours worked or the goals completed, we turn ourselves into machines. But machines do not know how to rest, and they do not know how to love. The Buddha once said, no one saves you but yourself. No one can, and no one may. You must walk the path alone. This reminds us that our value does not come from outside recognition, but from our ability to turn inward and take care of ourselves. Think of a businessman in New York. He once worked 80 hours a week, believing that success would bring happiness. But when he finally gained it all, money, fame, power, he suffered from endless insomnia and failing health. One day, he attended a short retreat where he learned to sit quietly for just 10 minutes each morning. Only 10 minutes. No emails, no phone, no plans. And something remarkable happened. He began to sleep better, think more clearly, and discovered that true success was not about doing more, but about being more present. Many studies in America confirm this. A survey at Stanford showed that working more than 50 hours a week does not increase productivity. On the contrary, it decreases efficiency due to stress and lack of sleep. In other words, chasing productivity at all costs is self-destruction. Buddhism teaches a simple principle: work mindfully and rest mindfully. When you work, be fully present. When you rest, truly let go. Do not turn sleep into another task to accomplish. Sleep is a gift, a gift you must open with gratitude, not something to control. Tonight, when you lay yourself down in bed, try saying, "I am not my productivity. I am not my job. I allow myself to rest." Then take a deep breath in, exhale, and feel your body releasing each layer of pressure. You will find that sleep comes more easily when you no longer need to prove your worth. Because your true value is not measured by how much you accomplish, but by how fully you live each moment, both in work and in rest. Another reason millions of Americans struggle to sleep is fear of the future. You lie in bed, the lights are off, but your mind is brighter than ever. What will happen tomorrow? What if I lose my job? What if illness comes? What if I do not have enough money, enough strength, enough luck? This fear stretches endlessly because the future has no limits. The more you try to control it, the larger it grows, and the result is that instead of sleeping, you fall into a spiral of worry. Buddhism reminds us, the future is only an idea, not a reality. The only reality you truly have is this breath, this moment. The Buddha once taught, the past is gone, the future has not yet come, only the present moment truly belongs to you. Fear of the future comes from the habit of clinging. The mind wants certainty, wants absolute safety. But the truth is, no one can control everything. When you understand this, you begin to learn how to let go. Imagine a student in California lying awake the night before an important exam. His mind keeps repeating, "What if I fail? What if I cannot find work?" But then he tries returning to the breath, reminding himself, "Right now, I am lying in bed. I am safe. I am breathing. The exam has not arrived. The future has not happened." And with that simple awareness, his mind softens and sleep comes. Fear of the future is like darkness in a room. You can panic, imagining hundreds of dangers, but light a single candle, the candle of awareness in the present, and the darkness instantly dissolves. Modern science agrees. Studies in America show that people who practice mindfulness, focusing on the present, have 58% less anxiety than those who do not. Because when you are in the present, the brain is no longer trapped in the cycle of what if. You can try this right now. When your mind begins to worry about tomorrow, place your hand on your belly and ask, "In this moment, is anything dangerous happening?" Most of the time, the answer is no. And if the answer is no, then you can rest. Tomorrow will come on its own. Letting go of the future does not mean being irresponsible. It simply means you stop living twice, once in anxious imagination and once in reality. You choose to live only once, fully, in the present. And in that present moment, you discover peace. A peace that carries you into sleep, not because you know the future, but because you trust that you can face whatever comes when it truly arrives. If fear of the future is a door that has not yet opened, then regret of the past is a door that keeps slamming shut inside your mind. How many nights have you lain down only to hear that voice echoing, "If only I had spoken differently, if only I had chosen differently, if only I had not done that"? Regret is one of the greatest thieves of sleep, because the past cannot be changed, yet the mind keeps trying to edit it like a broken tape on repeat. Buddhism teaches that the past is only memory, a shadow in the mind, no longer present in this moment. Suffering comes when you hold on to that shadow as though it was still real. The Buddha once said, "No one in this world is free from mistakes, but the one who recognizes and learns from mistakes is the one who truly grows." This means you do not need to erase the past in order to have peace. You only need to learn how to forgive yourself. Forgiveness does not mean denying mistakes. It means acknowledging, "I did that with the awareness I had at the time. Today, I know more. I allow myself to move forward." Imagine a man in Texas who suffered from insomnia for years after a divorce. Every night he thought, "If only I had been more patient. If only I had not spoken those words." But then, during a meditation retreat, he heard this, You cannot drive forward if you keep staring in the rearview mirror. That night, for the first time, he whispered, "I forgive the man I was yesterday. I open my heart to the man I am today." And sleep came, not perfect, but lighter. Science confirms this as well. Studies in America show that people who practice self-forgiveness suffer less from insomnia and enjoy better mental health, because prolonged guilt activates the body's alarm system, while forgiveness releases it. You can try this practice right now. Before sleep, think of one regret you still carry. Place your hand on your heart and say, "I do not deny the past, but I will not let it decide tonight's rest. I forgive, I let go." Repeat it a few times, and you will feel the body begin to soften, because forgiveness is a form of letting go, releasing the weight you have placed on your own shoulders. In Buddhism, this is called upekkha, equanimity, the ability to let go of both hatred and guilt so the mind can return to its natural state. When the mind is no longer pulled backward, you can finally step fully into the present. And in that present moment, sleep becomes a ritual of healing. Each night, not only does your body rest, but your soul is cleansed of the dust of regret. It is not only the mind that keeps us awake. Sometimes it is physical pain that steals away our sleep. A sore back, aching knees, or a chronic illness can keep you tossing and turning all night. And often, what exhausts us is not just the pain itself, but the resistance to it. In Buddhism, there is a famous teaching called the second arrow. The first arrow is the physical pain, something unavoidable. But the second arrow is the suffering we add through complaining, judging, and resisting. Why is this happening to me? I will never sleep. I cannot take this. It is the second arrow that truly drains us. What the Buddha taught is this: feel without clinging, notice without resisting. This does not mean you ignore the body. You still take medicine, care for yourself, and seek treatment. But when the pain arises, instead of tightening against it, you breathe with it. You whisper, "This is only a sensation. It comes, it goes. I am not this pain." Imagine a veteran in America carrying chronic injuries long after the war. He suffered from endless nights of pain. But when he learned mindfulness meditation, he tried something new. Instead of cursing his body, he placed his hand on the area of pain, breathed in and said, "Hello, I know you are here." Breathing out, he said, "I let you pass through." The pain did not vanish completely, but he felt less tense, and because of that, he was able to fall into deeper sleep. Science confirms this as well. Research shows that mindfulness meditation reduces the perception of pain by changing the way the brain processes pain signals. Meditators do not switch off the pain, but they reduce the panic response, making the pain easier to bear. You can try this tonight. If any part of your body aches, place your hand there. Inhale and silently say, "I acknowledge your presence." Exhale and say, "I do not need to resist." Repeat this a few times. You will notice that as the mind stops fighting, the body begins to release, and in that release, sleep returns. Buddhism reminds us, we do not need a perfect body to find peace. Even within pain, there is a space inside untouched, open, and always available for rest. And from that space, you realize pain does not define you. It is only a guest, arriving and leaving. You, the host of your own soul, remain steady, able to let go and drift into sleep. When people hear the word compassion, they often think of loving and helping others. But there is a kind of compassion that is often forgotten, compassion for yourself. And it is the absence of this that keeps millions of Americans awake at night. Have you ever lain in bed and heard that voice in your head scolding you? "I was terrible today. I am not good enough. I did not do enough. I do not deserve to rest." These whispers do not come from an enemy. They come from you, and sometimes they are harsher than anything anyone else could say. Buddhism teaches that to truly love others, you must first learn to love yourself. Compassion is not the final reward, it is the starting point. The Buddha once said, "You, yourself, as much as anybody in the entire universe, deserve your love and affection. Imagine a nurse in Boston. She spends her entire day caring for patients, forgetting to eat, to rest. But at night, she lies awake, blaming herself for not doing even more. One day, in a meditation class, she learns to place her hand on her heart and whisper, "I did my best today. I deserve to rest." At first, those words feel strange, but slowly they become a soft pillow, and she begins to sleep better, more deeply. Self-compassion does not mean indulgence or making excuses. It simply means acknowledging your humanity, that you, like everyone else, have limits, have moments of fatigue, make mistakes, and none of that makes you less worthy. Modern science calls this self-compassion. Studies in America show that people who practice it suffer less from insomnia, experience less anxiety, and recover more quickly from failure, because instead of beating themselves with the stick of judgment, they hold themselves in the arms of understanding. You can try a small practice tonight. As you lie down, instead of letting the mind criticize, place your hand on your heart and say, "I have done enough. I deserve to rest. I allow myself to sleep in peace." If you like, you can imagine holding yourself the way you would a dear friend. No judgment, no pressure, only gentle presence. Remember, sleep is not a reward for perfection. It is your natural right. And when you surrender to bed with compassion for yourself, sleep becomes an act of love, a love you give to your own being. If there is one small habit that can completely transform the quality of your sleep, it is gratitude. In modern American life, many people go to bed with minds full of unfinished tasks, worries about tomorrow, or endless comparisons with others. But very few pause to simply say, "Thank you." Gratitude is the gentlest yet most powerful form of letting go, because when you are grateful, you no longer cling to what is missing, what went wrong, or what is not enough. You shift your attention to what is already here, to what continues to support you each day. The Buddha once taught, "The one who is grateful and lives with gratitude will find happiness." This teaching is not only for the day, but also for the night when you are preparing to enter sleep. Imagine a family in Texas. Before turning off the lights, they share 3 things they are grateful for: a delicious meal, a moment of laughter, or simply the gift of another breath. At first, it was just a children's game, but slowly, the whole family began to notice. They slept more peacefully, more lightly, because they went to bed not with a sense of lack, but with fullness in their hearts. Scientific research in America confirms this as well. Writing down 3 things you are grateful for before bed can help you fall asleep faster, sleep more deeply, and wake up in a more positive mood. Gratitude is not just an emotion. It is a practice with real physiological power, directly calming the nervous system. You can try this tonight. Before closing your eyes, whisper 3 things you are grateful for. It could be something big, like a friend who stands by you, or something small, like a warm cup of tea, or the sound of wind through your window. Nothing is ever too small for gratitude. Each word of thanks is like a brick building, a bridge that carries you from tension to peace. And when you fall asleep in that state, sleep becomes a ritual, a closing of the day with an open heart. Remember, you do not need a perfect day to be grateful. You only need to be present, to notice the small gifts life is already offering. And when you do, you realize that peace is not something far away. It has always been here, in every single thing you give thanks for, right now, in this very moment. One of the hardest things to let go of, especially for parents in America, is the desire to control their children and their family. You want your child to be happy, successful, safe. You want your family to always be harmonious, whole. These desires come from love, but if not handled carefully, they can easily turn into a burden. How many nights have you tossed and turned, asking yourself, what school will my child attend? Do they have enough friends? Will they make mistakes? Am I doing the right thing? Those questions, instead of bringing solutions, often become a storm in the mind that robs you of sleep. Buddhism reminds us, every being has their own path and their own karma. Parents can guide, love, and support, but they cannot live for their children, study for them, or grow in their place. The Buddha once said, "No one can walk your path for you, not even the ones you love most." Imagine a mother in California. She worries because her teenage son has become withdrawn, sharing very little. Every night she loses sleep thinking, "If I do not intervene, he will lose his way." But during a meditation class, she hears the reminder, you cannot control your child's emotions. You can only be present and trust. That evening, instead of interrogating him, she simply sat with him, sharing a quiet meal. No pressure, no control, and in that moment, a real door of connection opened. Letting go of control does not mean indifference. It means trust. Trust that your child has the wisdom to learn from experience, and that your family has the strength to move through challenges. You still love, you still care, but you no longer place your heart on the scale of constant worry. When you let go, you sleep more peacefully, because you are no longer trying to carry the whole world on your shoulders. You realize that love is not doing it for them, but walking alongside them. Psychological research in America also shows that parents who set healthy boundaries and let go of excessive control have stronger relationships with their children, and both generations experience less anxiety. Tonight, before bed, you can try a small meditation. Close your eyes, bring to mind the loved one you are worried about. Inhale and say, "I love you." Exhale and say, "I trust you." Repeat this several times. Slowly, you will feel the weight lift, and sleep will come as an act of empowerment not only for you, but for the one you love. In modern American society, one of the biggest reasons people struggle to sleep is comparison. We compare our home to the neighbors. We compare our career to our colleagues. We compare our body to images on social media. And with each comparison, the mind whispers, "I am not enough. I must try harder. I will not be happy until I reach what they have." These whispers turn into an invisible burden, keeping you awake even when your body is exhausted. Buddhism points out that comparison comes from the ego, the idea that our worth must be measured against someone else's. But the ego is an illusion. It is never satisfied, because it will always find someone better to measure against. The Buddha taught, no one in this world is higher or lower. We are all walking our own path. When you truly understand this, you see that comparison is only an endless game, while peace is already here, within you. Imagine a young woman in Los Angeles who scrolls through social media for hours each night. She sees her friends traveling, building shining careers, enjoying perfect love, and in contrast, she feels lost, not good enough. Each time she puts the phone down, her heart feels heavy, and sleep becomes a luxury. One evening, she comes across a teaching from Thich Nhat Hanh. Comparison is the thief of joy. Come back to your breath and smile at yourself. That night, instead of scrolling, she closes her eyes, places a hand on her heart, and whispers, "I do not need to be like anyone else. I am already enough." Slowly, sleep returns not because life became perfect, but because she stopped losing herself in an endless race. Psychological research confirms this as well. Excessive social comparison is directly linked to anxiety, depression, and sleep disorders. By contrast, practicing mindfulness significantly reduces comparison by bringing the mind back to the present instead of chasing illusions. You can try this tonight. When you notice yourself comparing, pause and take a deep breath. Say, "They have their path, I have mine." Each repetition is a reminder that your worth does not depend on anyone else. Letting go of comparison does not make you passive. It frees you to live fully the one life you have. And when you let go, you sleep peacefully, not dreaming of someone else's life, but resting deeply in your own. We often think mindfulness only belongs on a meditation cushion, in the formal act of sitting still. But in truth, mindfulness can be present in every small action of the evening, and it is this that becomes the bridge carrying you from a busy day into a restful night. Consider the evening habits of many Americans: keeping the television on late, endlessly scrolling through the phone, eating a rushed late meal, then collapsing into bed with a mind still running 1,000 miles. No wonder sleep comes slowly or lightly. Buddhism reminds us, when walking, know that you are walking. When breathing, know that you are breathing. When living, know that you are living. This means that every act, washing your face, drinking water, turning off the light, can become a mindful ritual. Picture this. Instead of brushing your teeth in a hurry, you feel the cool water flowing through your mouth. When sipping a cup of herbal tea, you truly savor the warmth spreading within. When turning off your phone, you take a deep breath as though setting down the whole outside world. And when pulling the blanket over yourself, you consciously say, "I am embracing rest." These small actions, done with mindfulness, send a signal to both body and mind. It is time to let go. You do not need a week-long retreat to find peace. You only need 10 to 15 minutes of being fully present in the steps of your evening. Imagine a man in Seattle. He used to stay up until 1 or 2 in the morning, working while watching the news. But then, following advice from a mindfulness class, he made a change. At 9 o'clock, he turned off the television, left his phone in the living room, poured a cup of tea, and sat quietly for a few minutes. He treated it as his ritual of closing the day. The result? After 1 month, he fell asleep more easily, no longer woke in the middle of the night, and felt clearer in the morning. Science calls this sleep hygiene. But Buddhism takes it further, turning habits into sacred rituals, not as a way to control sleep, but as a way to honor the transition from waking to resting. You can begin tonight. Choose one small act and do it with full presence. It might be folding a blanket, turning off the light, or simply taking one deep breath. Whisper to yourself, "I have completed this day. I allow myself to rest." Over time, these small rituals become a familiar path, and each time you walk it, the mind knows it is time to release, it is time to let go, it is time to enter peaceful sleep. There is a quiet truth that many people in America experience: nighttime loneliness. During the day, you may be busy with work, meeting friends, or swept up in the rhythm of the city. But when night falls, when the room grows quiet and the only sound is your heartbeat, the emptiness becomes clear. Loneliness can keep you tossing for hours. It whispers, "No one truly understands me. No one is here with me." And the more you resist it, the emptier you feel. Buddhism does not teach us to run from loneliness, but to embrace it as a companion. The Buddha once said, "When you understand yourself, you will never be lonely." This reminds us that loneliness is not an enemy. It is an invitation to return, to sit down, and to get acquainted with your own heart. Imagine a student in New York, far from family, staring out the dorm window each night at the city, still glowing with lights. Among the crowds, he feels lost. But instead of drowning that feeling with his phone or with alcohol, he tries something else. He sits quietly, breathes, and whispers, "Hello, loneliness. I see you. You are just a feeling. You come, and you will go." Slowly, loneliness no longer feels like an abyss, but becomes a space where he learns how to be with himself. Loneliness, when seen through mindfulness, transforms into stillness. And in that stillness, you realize you are not truly alone. Your breath is with you. Your body is with you. Life is flowing through you. Even loneliness itself is sitting there like a guest. And like all guests, it will eventually leave. Psychological studies in America also show that people who accept and observe loneliness with mindfulness suffer less from insomnia and depression. Because when you stop turning loneliness into an enemy, it loses its power over you. You can try this practice tonight. When loneliness rises, instead of curling into fear, place your hand on your heart and say, "I see you, loneliness. I am here with you. Breathe with that feeling without trying to push it away, without judgment. You will notice that this emotion is only like a cloud drifting across the sky. And when you embrace loneliness instead of fearing it, sleep comes more gently, because you no longer have to fight the emptiness. You turn that emptiness into a place of rest, into a quiet friend. Perhaps one of the heaviest burdens people carry into sleep is anger and resentment. You may lie down, but in your mind the arguments replay, the painful words echo, or the unfairness of the day lingers. Your heart beats fast, your body tenses, and sleep feels far away. Buddhism reminds us, anger is like holding a hot coal, ready to throw at someone else, but burning yourself first. The Buddha once said, hatred is never appeased by hatred. By love alone is hatred appeased. This does not mean you must accept injustice or forget what happened. It simply means you choose not to let the fire keep burning inside your heart. You let go not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. Imagine a woman in Chicago. After arguing with a colleague, she lies in bed replaying every sentence, every word. She feels as though she is fighting all over again, but then she remembers a simple practice. Send loving kindness to both yourself and the other person. She closes her eyes, inhales, and says, "May I be at peace?" Exhales and says, "May you be at peace." At first, the words feel forced, but after a few repetitions, her body softens, and she drifts into sleep not because the conflict disappeared, but because the fire inside her heart cooled. Neuroscience in America has found that holding on to anger before bed increases cortisol, the stress hormone, keeping the body in a state of alert and blocking deep sleep. By contrast, practicing forgiveness or loving kindness meditation lowers the heart rate and helps the brain enter REM sleep more easily. You can try this tonight. Before bed, bring to mind someone who upset you. Place your hand on your chest, inhale and say, "I release this fire." Exhale and say, "I choose peace." You do not need to force yourself to feel love right away. It is enough to simply stop feeding the anger. That alone is a great gift to yourself. Buddhism calls this metta and upekkha, loving kindness and equanimity, the ability to open the heart, release resentment, and let compassion take its place. And when you practice this, sleep becomes a journey of healing. Each night, you not only rest the body, but also cleanse the heart of invisible burns. There is a familiar paradox. The harder you try to force yourself to sleep, the less you are able to sleep. How many nights have you stared at the clock, watching the hands tick past 11 p.m., midnight, 1 in the morning, and the mind begins to panic? If I do not fall asleep now, I will be exhausted tomorrow. I must sleep right away. That obsession with time becomes the very barrier that keeps sleep away. Buddhism teaches that the root of suffering is attachment in this case, attachment to the idea that I must sleep at the right time, for the right number of hours, exactly as planned. The tighter you cling, the more tense the mind becomes, the more alert the body grows, and the further sleep drifts. The Buddha once said, "Let go of the past, let go of the future, let go even of the present. With a free heart, you will find peace." This applies perfectly to sleep. Instead of watching the clock and counting the minutes, you simply release, allowing sleep to come when it chooses to come. Imagine an engineer in Silicon Valley. Each night he sets a backward alarm. If I do not fall asleep in 15 minutes, I will only get 6 hours. If I do not fall asleep in 30 minutes, I will only get 5.5. The more he calculated, the more tense he became. Until one day, in a meditation class, he learned a new approach. Instead of watching the clock, watch the breath. He replaced the mantra, "I must sleep now," with, "I only need to rest." That night, he did not know the exact moment he fell asleep, but for the first time in weeks, he woke up feeling refreshed. Sleep research in America confirms this. The more people worry about the number of hours slept, the lower their sleep quality becomes. Experts advise focusing on rest rather than forcing sleep, because even if you are not yet asleep, the body still restores itself when you relax. You can try this tonight. When the mind insists, "I must sleep right now," smile gently and replace it with, "I allow myself to rest." Breathe slowly, feel your body sinking into the bed, and let time fade away. Sleep does not need to be forced. It will come to you like a friend, once you stop calling its name too urgently. Letting go of control over time not only helps you sleep more peacefully, it teaches you a deeper lesson. Everything arrives in its own time. Just as the sun rises, the flowers bloom, the rain falls, sleep has its natural rhythm. And when you learn to trust that rhythm, you find peace not only in the night, but also in the day. A silent yet common reason many Americans struggle with sleep is perfectionism. You lie down in bed, but the mind keeps replaying the day. Did I say the wrong thing? Could I have done better? Why was I not perfect? Perfectionism keeps the mind restless because there is always another standard not yet reached. Buddhism teaches that perfectionism is another form of attachment. When you believe only perfection gives you worth, you become a prisoner of expectation. But the Buddha reminded us, there is no one in this world without mistakes. To see imperfection is to see truth. Imagine a lawyer in Washington, D.C. She is successful, yet every night she tosses and turns, replaying every detail of her trial, blaming herself for not being flawless. One day, she hears a teacher say, "You do not need to be perfect to deserve rest." That night, for the first time, she whispers, "I allow myself to be imperfect. I allow myself to sleep." And she did sleep, not because everything was perfect, but because she no longer needed it to be. In mindfulness, there is a practice called letting go of judgment. Instead of labeling everything as good or bad, you simply notice things as they are. When you apply this to yourself, perfectionism begins to fade. Mistakes no longer appear as the end, but as lessons. Psychological studies in America show that perfectionists are twice as likely to suffer from insomnia because they cannot let go and often live in constant anxiety. By contrast, those who practice self-compassion and acceptance sleep more deeply and recover more quickly from setbacks. You can try a small practice tonight. When the mind starts listing everything not enough, place your hand on your heart and say, "I do not need to be perfect. I only need to be present. I deserve to rest." Repeat it like a lullaby to yourself. The truth is, the world does not need you to be perfect in order to love you. Your child, your partner, your friends, they do not remember the tiny flaws you obsess over. They remember your presence, your smile, your authenticity, and that is what allows the heart to rest. Letting go of perfectionism does not mean giving up effort. It simply means allowing yourself to be human with both light and shadow. And when you accept that, sleep becomes a return home rather than a nightly battle. One of the reasons many people lie awake at night is the habit of wanting to control others. You may not even realize it, but the mind often circles with thoughts like, "Why does he not do things my way? Why does my child not listen? Why does my coworker refuse to change?" And when others do not behave the way you expect, frustration follows you even into sleep. Buddhism reminds us, every person has their own karma and their own path. You can advise, you can love, you can support, but you cannot live their life for them. When you try to control, you are fighting against a great truth that every soul must learn its own lessons. The Buddha once said, "Be an island unto yourself." This teaching is not only for you, but also for others. They, too, must learn to stand on their own feet. And true love is allowing them to do so. Imagine a father in New Jersey. He wants his daughter to become a lawyer, believing it is the safest path, but she loves art. Every night he worries, struggles, and tries to force her. The result? Both lose sleep in tension. Until one day, he tries letting go. Instead of controlling, he listens. Instead of imposing, he trusts. And something remarkable happens. The relationship grows warmer, and he sleeps more peacefully, no longer carrying the burden of living his daughter's life for her. Psychological research in America shows the same. People with high control tendencies suffer more from anxiety and insomnia. By contrast, practicing release, letting go of control, reduces stress and increases relationship satisfaction. You can try this tonight. Before bed, think of someone you want to change. Inhale and say, "I allow you to be yourself." Exhale and say, "I choose peace." You will feel the weight lift, because you are no longer tugging on a rope that was never yours to pull. Letting go of control does not mean abandoning others. It means loving with freedom. It means being present, supporting, but not taking over their journey. And when you live with that kind of free love, your sleep also becomes free, no longer bound by unrealistic expectations. Another reason many Americans cannot sleep peacefully is excessive attachment to material things. Have you ever lain in bed with your mind spinning, calculating, what else do I need to buy to be happy? If I had another house, another car, or that amount of money, I would feel more at peace. But the truth is, even when you get what you want, the satisfaction is brief. Soon after, a new desire takes its place. Buddhism calls this impermanent pleasure. The joy that depends on material things is always temporary. It is like drinking seawater. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. And the tighter you cling, the harder it is to sleep, because the mind is always driven to chase more. The Buddha once taught, "The one who knows contentment is the richest of all." Wealth is not about adding more, but about the ability to stop and appreciate what you already have. Imagine a businessman in New York, luxury apartment, beautiful car, bank account full. Yet every night he lies awake, afraid of losing it all, afraid it is still not enough. One day, he attends a meditation retreat, where he learns to sit quietly and reflect. I have this breath, I have this roof over my head, I have this life. For the first time, he realizes that wealth is not in possessions, but in the heart that knows enough. That night, he slept better than he ever did after signing $1 million deal. Science in America confirms this. People who practice gratitude and live simply tend to have better mental health and better sleep, because they are no longer pressured to chase material wealth, but feel secure in the present moment. You can try this tonight. Before bed, instead of focusing on what you lack, list 3 simple things you already have. It could be a roof over your head, a meal you enjoyed, or the steady rhythm of your breath. Whisper to yourself, I am enough, I am rich right now. When you let go of attachment to material things, you find your sleep becomes deeper, because no sleep is peaceful when the mind is weighed down by not enough. And there is no greater wealth than falling asleep free in spirit. One of the deepest fears that keeps many Americans awake is the fear of illness and aging. When the body begins to weaken, a sudden pain, a new wrinkle, a medical diagnosis, the mind often panics. I am losing myself. I will never be the same. I cannot control this. It is this resistance that becomes the greatest source of suffering. The truth is, all of us age, and every body will eventually change. Buddhism reminds us that aging, illness, and death are natural parts of human life. The Buddha once said, "Of all the marks, impermanence is the deepest." This teaching is not to make us despair, but to help us release fear and live more fully. Imagine a woman in Florida who has just been diagnosed with a chronic illness. For many nights, she lies awake, worrying about the future, grieving her body that is no longer the same. But in a meditation class she hears, "This body is a raft, not the shore. It carries you, but it is not you." That night, she places her hand on the place of pain, breathes, and whispers, "Thank you for carrying me here. I allow you to age. I allow you to rest." And she sleeps not because the illness vanished, but because the mind stopped resisting. Modern science also shows this. Accepting aging and illness is directly linked to better sleep and higher quality of life. Those who accept rather than resist suffer less from insomnia and depression and live more healthily. You can try a practice tonight. When you worry about health or aging, place your hand on your heart and say, "I am not only this body. I am the life that breathes in every moment." With each repetition, you remind yourself that the body may change, but the awareness within remains whole. And when you sleep with this understanding, sleep becomes an act of reconciliation. Reconciliation with age, with illness, and with the very limits of human life. Peace does not come when the body is perfect. Peace comes when you accept the body as it is a loyal companion, doing its best to carry you through the journey of living. One of the most subtle reasons many people lie awake at night is an obsession with results. You lie down, but the mind keeps repeating, "Tomorrow's presentation must succeed. This project must be perfect. My life must follow the exact plan." End quote. And the moment you think things may not be certain, restlessness and tension rise, keeping you from sleep. Buddhism reminds us, you have the right to plant seeds, but you cannot control the harvest. You may give your best effort, but the outcome is never fully in your hands. Many forces, weather, circumstances, the choices of others all play a part in the final picture. The Buddha once taught, "Do your best, but do not cling to the results." Because happiness does not live in the outcome, it lives in how you show up for each step. Imagine a student in Boston, on the eve of an important exam. He has studied day and night, yet each evening he cannot sleep, whispering to himself, "What if I fail?" A teacher suggests, "Focus on your preparation, leave the score to the future." That night, he tries breathing deeply and whispering, "I have planted my seeds, I leave the harvest to time." And he falls asleep, not because success is guaranteed, but because he knows he has done his part. Psychology agrees. People who obsess over outcomes often suffer higher stress and more sleep disorders. By contrast, those who focus on the process, what researchers call a growth mindset, enjoy better sleep quality and stronger mental health. You can try this tonight. Before bed, think of something in which you are trying to control the result. Inhale and say, "I have done my part." Exhale and say, "I release the outcome." Repeat a few times and let the body feel the lightness. Letting go of results does not mean passivity. It means you continue to make effort, but allow sleep to come as part of the process, free from the obsession with what has not yet happened. And when you sleep in this trust, you teach the mind that peace is not found in what will be, but in the ability to rest fully in the present moment. Of all the practices Buddhism teaches, mindful breathing may be the simplest and most direct path into peace, and also the most reliable bridge carrying you into sleep. The breath is the companion that has been with you from your first moment of life until your last. Yet most of the time, you forget it is even there. You chase after thoughts, emotions, and plans, while overlooking the gentle rhythm that sustains you every second. The Buddha once taught in the Anapanasati Sutta, "When breathing in, know that you are breathing in. When breathing out, know that you are breathing out." It sounds simple, but within that simplicity lies a profound secret. When you are aware of your breath, you return to the present. And in the present moment, there is no anxiety about the future, no regret about the past. There is only life unfolding. Try this tonight. As you lie down, instead of trying to chase away thoughts, place your hand on your belly. Inhale and feel the belly rise. Exhale and feel the belly fall. No need to control, no need to force. Just be a gentle observer. You can add a small mantra linked to the rhythm of the breath. Inhale, "I am here." Exhale, "I am at peace." With just 10 such breaths, you may notice your body begin to soften. The heartbeat slows, the mind grows quieter, and sleep often comes as a natural consequence. Imagine a teacher in Texas lying awake each night worrying about her students and her family. One evening, she tries mindful breathing before bed. At first, her mind is restless, but patiently, she returns again and again to the breath. After 15 minutes, she cannot even remember when she fell asleep. The next morning, she wakes with a surprising feeling, her body lighter, her heart freer. Modern science has confirmed this. Slow, deep, conscious breathing activates the parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural rest switch. Just 5 minutes of mindful breathing can lower blood pressure, calm the brain, and prepare the body for deep sleep. The beautiful truth is, you do not need any special tool. The breath is already within you, and every time you return to it, you remind yourself that peace is not out there somewhere. It is right here, in this very moment. One of the most silent yet powerful thieves of sleep in modern America is digital distraction. Before bed, instead of letting the body and mind slow down, we often pick up the phone, scrolling through social media, checking emails, or watching just one more episode. Every flash of blue light on the screen whispers, just a little more, just one more time, and before you know it, midnight has slipped away. Buddhism reminds us, you become what you consume. This is true not only for food, but also for information. If you feed your mind chaos, comparison, and worry right before sleep, your mind will remain chaotic, comparing and worrying even in your dreams. The Buddha taught about mindfulness in consumption. Be careful with what you allow into both body and mind, because it becomes a part of you. This means turning off the screen is not harsh discipline, it is an act of compassion toward yourself. You give your mind the same chance to rest as your body needs after a long day. Imagine a young man in Los Angeles. He used to bring his phone to bed, watching videos until 2 in the morning. The next day, he felt drained, anxious, and unfocused. One evening, he tried something different. At 10 p.m., he turned off his phone, left it in the living room, and read a few gentle pages of a book instead. The result? He fell asleep faster, slept more deeply, and woke up without that heavy exhaustion. Science has confirmed this. The blue light from screens suppresses melatonin, the sleep hormone, and makes the brain think it is still daytime. On top of that, the content you consume keeps the mind stimulated, making it hard to let go. By contrast, when you turn off screens at least an hour before bed, the body naturally shifts into its rhythm of rest. You can try this tonight. See putting down your phone not as a loss, but as a gift you give to yourself. Instead of endless scrolling, choose a mindful act. Drink tea, write down a few gratitudes, or simply sit quietly and breathe. You will discover this. When the screen goes dark, the inner world lights up, and in that inner light, sleep comes naturally undisturbed, unburdened by endless images and excess information. One of the reasons many Americans struggle with sleep is the desire for the environment to be perfectly quiet and controlled. You may have thought, if only the neighbors were not noisy, I could sleep. If only the street lights were off, I would rest. If everything matched my wishes, then I would be at peace. But life is never that perfect, and it is not the small disturbances themselves, but our resistance to them that keeps us awake. Buddhism teaches that suffering does not come from events, but from the way we react to events. The sound outside the window is just a sound. The light through the curtain is just light. But when the mind clings to the thought, these should not be here, we turn them into enemies. The Buddha once said, when the mind is at peace, the world is at peace. This does not mean you should ignore all improvements. You can still use blackout curtains or earplugs. But in the end, the key is acceptance. You cannot fully control the environment, but you can learn not to be controlled by it. Imagine a man in New York, living in an apartment near a subway line. Each night, the trains passing by filled him with anger and restlessness. But after a meditation retreat, he tried a new approach. Instead of fighting the noise, he treated it like a mindfulness bell. Each time he heard it, he took a deep breath, smiled, and whispered, "This is just a sound." It will pass. The result? After a few weeks, the trains were no longer his enemy. They became a familiar rhythm that actually helped him fall asleep. Neuroscience also shows this. When you accept rather than resist, the nervous system reduces its alarm response, and the body more easily drifts into sleep, even in an imperfect environment. You can try this tonight. When there is noise or light, instead of saying, "I cannot sleep with this," shift to, "I allow this to be here, and I can still rest." Take a slow breath in, exhale, and feel your body sinking deeper. Letting go of the need to control your environment does not mean resigning yourself to noise forever. It simply means you stop sacrificing your precious rest for things beyond your reach. And when you sleep in acceptance, you realize that peace does not depend on absolute silence, but on the stillness within. One of the reasons many Americans lie awake at night is the pressure of social roles. During the day, you may be a dedicated employee, a father, a mother, a friend, or a leader. Each role carries responsibilities, expectations, and sometimes invisible burdens. The problem is, many people carry those roles with them into bed. Have you ever lain down but still worried? Tomorrow I must be strong. I must be the rock. I must prove I am worthy of this role. These thoughts are like heavy clothes you forget to take off before resting. Buddhism reminds us, you are not only your roles, you are more than the labels society gives you. The Buddha once said, "Let go of the idea of self, and you will find the vast true self." When you understand this, you learn to set your roles down, at least during sleep. Imagine a doctor in Chicago. All day he must appear calm, heal patients, and be the support for his family. But at night, he still lies awake under the burden of, "I must be strong." One day, in a meditation class, he hears his teacher say, "You do not always have to be the doctor. You can simply be a human being, breathing and alive." That night, for the first time, he whispers, "I do not need to wear the white coat into my sleep. I allow myself to just be me." And he sleeps deeper, more peacefully. Sociological studies in America also show this. Role pressure, especially for women, balancing both career and family, is one of the main causes of stress and insomnia. Yet when they learn to set boundaries and release roles after hours, their sleep quality improves dramatically. You can try this tonight. Before bed, imagine taking off each role outfit, employee, parent, partner, and placing them gently beside the bed. Whisper, "I am not only these roles, I am this life itself. I allow myself to rest." When you do this, sleep becomes the place where you return to your deepest self, free of pressure, free of expectation, resting in quiet presence. One of the deepest pains that keeps many Americans awake at night is the loss of a loved one. You may lie in bed with your eyes closed, but your heart is storming. If only I could have kept them here. If only I could change what happened. If only I had just one more day. These if-onlys become chains, pulling you away from sleep and keeping you trapped in the grip of grief. Buddhism reminds us, death is not an ending, but a transformation. It is like a candle going out, yet its light still spreading into the space around it. The loved one you miss may no longer appear in their familiar form, but their love, their memory, and their influence continue to live within you. The Buddha once taught, "All that is dear will one day fade away, but the love we plant will never be lost." This means you do not need to hold on tightly or try to keep your loved one in their old form. You can release them, and in doing so, allow love to be free to become gratitude. Imagine a man in Ohio who has just lost his mother. For many nights he cannot sleep, haunted by her image and by the whisper of regret. "I did not do enough for her. I let her go." One day he attends a chanting service where a monk says, "The one who has passed does not need you to suffer forever. They only wish for you to keep living through the love they gave you." That night, for the first time, he sits down, breathes deeply, and whispers, "Thank you, Mom. Your love is still here. I let go of the pain so that love remains. And sleep comes like a gentle reconciliation. Psychological studies in America also show this. People who practice grief meditation, mindfulness directed toward loss, transform pain into gratitude more quickly, and their sleep improves significantly, because they are no longer stuck in resistance, but allow love itself to become the resting place. You can try this tonight. Think of a loved one who has passed. Inhale and say, I know you are gone. Exhale and say, I thank you for the love that remains. Each breath becomes a bridge, turning loss into gratitude, turning tears into a soft light. And when you sleep within that gratitude, your rest is no longer just recovery, it becomes a silent prayer. A prayer for you, for the one who has passed, and for the love that never dies. In American society, many people cannot sleep, not because they lack time, but because their minds never stop working. You may turn off the lights, close the laptop, and put down the phone, but inside, it still feels like a 24-hour office. Unfinished plans, unanswered emails, chores left undone. The mind keeps running as if the day never ended. Buddhism calls this the monkey mind, always jumping, always swinging from branch to branch, never resting. And the harder you try to force it to be silent, the more it resists. The solution is not to make the mind stop, but to learn how to watch it, and then let go. The Buddha once said, just like a river, thoughts will flow. Do not block them, and do not be swept away by them. This means that when your mind is busy, you do not need to fight. You can simply sit still, breathe, and let your thoughts pass by like drifting clouds. Imagine a businesswoman in San Francisco. She often carried her entire company into bed with her, calculating contracts, worrying about her staff. But when she learned meditation, she was taught a simple technique. Write down on paper what is unfinished, place the notebook beside her, then breathe and whisper, the day is complete. Tomorrow will take care of tomorrow. Just this small act softened her mind, and sleep came more easily. Science agrees. A study at Baylor University found that writing down unfinished tasks before bed helps the brain settle and fall asleep faster, because the mind no longer needs to hold everything in temporary memory. You can try this tonight. Before bed, take a piece of paper and write down 3 things left undone. Then fold it up and say, I leave this for tomorrow. Lie down, breathe deeply, and feel your body being allowed to rest even while the world outside keeps moving. Because the truth is, the world never truly stops. But you have the power to pause. And in the very moment you allow yourself to rest, not only will you sleep better, but you will also step into tomorrow with a clearer, calmer mind. One of the invisible chains that keeps many people awake at night is the weight of other people's expectations. Have you ever lain in bed while your mind kept echoing, what will they think of me? Have I done enough to make my parents proud? Did I satisfy my boss? Are my friends disappointed in me? These questions may sound like distant whispers, yet they are strong enough to keep you awake all night. Because when you live only to please others, you are never allowed to rest. There is always a new standard, a new expectation, a new gaze to satisfy. Buddhism reminds us, every outside expectation is impermanent. The person who praises you today may criticize you tomorrow. The one who supports you today may turn away tomorrow. If you place your worth in the hands of others, you will never know peaceful sleep. The Buddha once taught, do not seek acceptance from the outside, return and make friends with yourself. When you understand this, you begin to release the pressure to please. You do not stop loving or connecting, but you no longer confuse your value with the expectations of others. Imagine a young woman in New York working in the fashion industry. Each night she lies awake, worried she is not beautiful enough, not successful enough to be accepted. One day, in a meditation class, she is reminded, you are not the judgment of others, you are the life that is breathing within you. That night, she whispers to herself, I do not need to please everyone, "I choose peace," and she sleeps, for the first time in months, in the freedom of her own heart. Psychological studies in America also confirm this. Those who depend too heavily on social approval are at higher risk of insomnia and anxiety. In contrast, those who practice self-acceptance and mindfulness sleep better and live happier. You can try this tonight. When your mind tells you that you must meet someone's expectation, take a deep breath and say, "I am not the expectation of others. I am myself. I allow myself to rest." As you repeat this, you remind your heart that peace does not come from outside eyes. It comes from the quiet nod of acceptance you give yourself. And within that acceptance, you fall asleep gently, no longer weighed down by masks you never needed to wear. One of the most common reasons millions of Americans lie awake at night is repetitive thinking. Have you ever lain down, closed your eyes, only to find your mind filled with the same recordings on repeat? Maybe it is an argument you have replayed hundreds of times. Maybe it is a to-do list you keep reading again and again. Or perhaps it is an old memory that refuses to let go. These loops are like a wheel that never stops turning. The harder you try to shut them off, the faster they spin, and sleep slips further away. Buddhism calls this the wandering mind, the endless stream of thoughts that arise and fade. But when we cling to them, they become a burden. The Buddha once said, "Thoughts are like passing clouds. Let them go. Do not mistake them for the sky." This means that instead of trying to force thoughts away, you simply learn how to observe them without attachment. Imagine you are sitting by a river. Your thoughts are like leaves falling onto the water, floating downstream. You do not need to hold them, and you do not need to push them away. You just sit and watch. Take the example of an engineer in Seattle. Each night he was haunted by unfinished projects, replaying every detail. He tried to force himself not to think, but the more he fought, the tighter his mind became, until one day he learned a new way. Sit still, breathe, and imagine each thought as a leaf drifting by. Soon, his mind softened, and sleep came naturally. Science agrees. Studies in the United States show that practicing mindfulness meditation, observing thoughts without judgment, significantly reduces rumination and improves sleep quality. You can try this tonight. When a thought appears, instead of saying, "I must stop thinking about this," try saying, "Hello, I see you." Then gently return to your breath. Repeat this each time a new thought comes. You will notice, just like clouds, they arrive and they leave, and eventually the sky clears again. Letting go of repetitive thoughts does not mean erasing them. It means you stop identifying with them. You are no longer the one trapped in the spinning wheel, but the one standing outside, watching the wheel turn. And this shift in perspective opens the door to peace. Many people in America do not lose sleep because they are physically alone, but because they fear loneliness inside their relationships. You may be lying next to your partner, yet your heart whispers, "What if one day they leave me? What if I am not good enough? What if this love does not last?" That fear makes us cling, control, and slowly take away the freedom of both people. And when love turns into chains, sleep becomes heavy as well. Buddhism reminds us that true love is not built on possession, but on presence. The Buddha once taught, "You can discover real love when you let go of fear." This does not mean being careless or indifferent. It means you choose to love with trust instead of loving with anxiety. Imagine a woman in Los Angeles, lying next to her husband, yet tossing and turning every night, afraid of losing his love. One evening in a meditation retreat, she heard the teacher say, "If you hold a bird too tightly, it will suffocate. If you give it freedom, it will fly around you with trust." That night, she whispered, "I love you, and I also trust you." Slowly her fear faded, and sleep arrived like a gentle embrace. Psychological research in the United States confirms this truth. Relationships grounded in trust and freedom create better sleep quality. The body relaxes because it is no longer flooded with cortisol, the stress hormone that rises when we fear loss. You can try this tonight. As you lie down, instead of letting your mind spin endless stories of losing love, take a deep breath and say, "I cherish this love. I do not need to control it for it to exist." Each time you repeat this, you remind yourself that love is not a cage, it is a space, and within that space, both hearts can be free, and you can rest. Letting go of the fear of loneliness in love does not make you weak. On the contrary, it allows you to love more deeply, more freely, and to sleep more peacefully. Because you are no longer clinging to hold on, you are opening your heart to give and to receive. One of the subtle reasons many Americans lie awake at night is an obsession with appearance. You may lie down in bed, yet your mind flashes back to the image in the mirror that morning. I have more wrinkles. I've gained weight. I am not as attractive as I used to be. Those thoughts cling to you, and your sleep becomes imprisoned by worry. Modern society, especially in America, constantly whispers the message that you are only valuable if you are young, thin, beautiful, and flawless. But Buddhism teaches that true beauty does not lie in the body's shape. It lives in a clear mind, a compassionate heart, and a deep, present spirit. The Buddha once said, "This body will wither, but a kind heart will shine forever." This teaching reminds us, you cannot stop your body from changing, but you can nourish the beauty within, and that is the only source of peace that lasts. Imagine a young actress in Hollywood. She is used to being praised for her looks, but each new wrinkle steals her sleep, filling her with fear that her career will fade. One day, during a meditation retreat, she heard her teacher say, "The greatest beauty of a human being is the peace they radiate." That night, she placed her hand over her heart, breathed, and whispered, "I am not only this body, I am the light within." Slowly, sleep returned deeper and more gentle than before. Modern psychology agrees. Studies show that people who focus on inner values rather than outward appearance experience less anxiety and fewer sleep problems. They do not carry their faces into bed. They carry hearts that know how to love. You can try this tonight. When your mind begins to criticize your body, inhale and say, "Thank you, body, for carrying me." Exhale and say, "My beauty comes from within." Repeat a few times, and you will feel your body soften, your mind grow lighter. Letting go of the obsession with appearance does not mean you stop caring for yourself. It only means you no longer use your body as the sole measure of your worth. When you begin to see your inner beauty, sleep becomes a homecoming, not filled with comparison or fear, but wrapped in gentle peace. Have you ever lain down at night, only to see the same images replay in your mind? Your co-worker getting promoted, your neighbor buying a new car, your friends posting pictures of their travels. Each image feels like a tiny needle pricking your heart, keeping sleep far away. Buddhism teaches that envy is a fire that burns the one who carries it first. The other person may not even know you are comparing yourself to them, but your own heart feels hot and restless. The Buddha once said, "There is no fire fiercer than greed, no chain tighter than envy." The antidote to envy is mudita, the joy of seeing others happy. It is not easy, but when you practice it, your mind becomes lighter and your sleep becomes deeper. Imagine a man in Texas who lost many nights of sleep, envying a colleague who always had more contracts. After joining a meditation class, he was invited to try a new exercise. Each time he thought of his colleague, instead of resenting him, he whispered, "I am happy for your success. May more good things come your way." At first, the words felt awkward, but after a few weeks, the envy slowly dissolved. In its place came a strange and gentle peace, and sleep returned. Modern psychology confirms this. When you nurture positive feelings toward others, your brain releases dopamine and oxytocin, the hormones that relax the body, reduce stress, and support restful sleep. You can try this tonight. When a spark of envy appears, do not judge yourself. Simply breathe in, breathe out, and say, "I choose to be glad for you." One simple phrase can open a doorway out of envy's fire and into the cool shade of shared joy. Letting go of envy does not mean abandoning your own aspirations. It means you stop punishing yourself through constant comparison. You can still work hard for your goals, but with a wide, open heart, where another's success is no longer a threat, but an inspiration. And when you fall asleep in that state of mind, your rest is no longer torn apart by jealousy, but gently lulled by genuine joy. One of the heaviest invisible burdens many people in America carry into sleep is the effort to control the emotions of others. You may ask yourself, if I don't keep them happy, they will be disappointed. If I don't make them comfortable, they will be angry. If I don't carry some of their sadness, they will collapse. The mind turns you into a sky keeper, trying to hold the sky steady so everyone around you always sees sunshine, but the cost is exhaustion and restless nights. Buddhism reminds us, each person has their own karma, their own lessons, their own emotions to walk through. You can love, you can be present, you can walk alongside, but you cannot carry or fix it all. The Buddha once said, "You can lead someone to the river, but you cannot drink the water for them." Imagine a teacher in Boston. She often carried her students' sadness home with her, worrying, unable to sleep. One day, she heard a monk say, "Compassion is not carrying for them, it is being present without judgment." That night, she placed her hand on her heart and whispered, "I am here with you, but I do not need to carry your feelings for you." And she slept more peacefully. Modern psychology agrees. People with clear emotional boundaries experience less stress and fewer sleep problems because they know the difference between empathy and enmeshment. Empathy is sharing. Enmeshment is losing yourself. You can try this tonight. When you think of someone in pain, breathe in and say, "I am with you." Breathe out and say, "Your feelings are your path." This mantra reminds you that you still love, but you no longer turn love into a burden. Letting go of the need to control another's emotions does not make you cold. In fact, it makes your love more pure, more free. And when your heart feels lighter, sleep itself becomes an act of compassion, compassion for others and compassion for yourself. One of the quiet reasons many people lose sleep is disappointment. Disappointment when others break their promises. Disappointment when a career does not unfold as planned. Disappointment in yourself for not meeting your own expectations. These may seem small, but at night, silence magnifies them. The heart grows heavy. Buddhism teaches that the root of disappointment is false expectation. We expect people to stay the same. We expect life to follow our script. We expect ourselves to always live up to the highest mark. When reality shifts, we suffer. The Buddha once said, "When you let go of expectation, you will not be disappointed. When you accept, you will find peace." Imagine a man in Denver. He hoped for a promotion at work, but was passed over. Each night, he replayed the moment his boss chose someone else. He felt betrayed, unworthy, but during a meditation session, he heard his teacher say, "Every disappointment is an invitation to return to the present." That evening, he breathed and whispered, "I am disappointed, but I release it. I choose to rest." Gradually, the obsession with outcome faded, and sleep returned. Psychology also confirms this truth. People who can reframe disappointment as a chance to learn rather than a dead end report less stress and deeper sleep. Shifting the question from "Why did this happen to me?" to "What can I learn from this?" lightens the heart. You can try this tonight. Think of something that has disappointed you. Breathe in and say, "I acknowledge this reality." Breathe out and say, "I release the expectation." You do not need to deny your feelings. You simply allow them and let them soften. Letting go of disappointment does not mean letting go of dreams. It means walking forward without carrying the heavy stone in your chest. And when you rest in that way, sleep itself becomes healing. Each night a chance to lay down old expectations, and each morning a chance to rise lighter. One of the most common, yet often unseen, thieves of sleep, is self-doubt. You lie down, but instead of resting, the mind whispers, "Am I good enough? Do I deserve to be loved? Did I ruin everything?" These questions sting like tiny needles, pricking at the heart, keeping you from letting go. Buddhism reminds us that doubt is one of the 5 hindrances, major obstacles of the mind. When doubt grows strong, the heart loses trust in itself and cannot rest in the present moment. The Buddha once said, "You, as much as anyone in the universe, deserve love and peace." These words are not mere comfort, they are a reminder that your worth is not tied to success, failure, or the opinions of others. Your worth is inherent, like breath, like life itself. Picture a student in California. Each night before an exam, he lies awake, fearing he is not smart enough, not talented enough. But during a meditation course, he is guided. Whenever doubt arises, return to the breath and whisper, "I am enough, right now." At first, it feels unconvincing. Yet, with practice, the doubt softens and sleep begins to return. Modern psychology in America also confirms this truth. High levels of self-doubt are linked to chronic insomnia and anxiety. By contrast, practicing self-compassion, treating oneself with kindness, reduces negative inner questioning and improves sleep quality. You can try tonight. When the voice of doubt arises, do not fight it. Simply breathe deeply and say, "I hear you, but I do not believe you. I am enough right now." Repeat until the mind begins to soften. Letting go of self-doubt does not mean you will always feel confident. It means you no longer allow that voice to rule the night. You choose to lay your head on the pillow with the quiet trust that you are already enough, and sleep comes as a gentle witness to that truth. Modern American society seems to move to a single rhythm: faster, faster at work, faster to reply to messages, faster to reach the next goal. And even when lying down at night, the mind still whispers, "Hurry up and sleep, you have to wake up early, hurry and rest, tomorrow is full of tasks." But this rush itself becomes the enemy of sleep, because sleep does not arrive through force, it comes through release, through slowing down. Buddhism teaches that all rushing is a form of running away from the present. When you are always racing ahead, you miss the life unfolding right now. The Buddha reminded us, "Walk slowly, for you are walking within life." Picture a businessman in New York. By day, he runs from one meeting to the next. At night, he carries the same habit into bed, tossing, turning, urging himself to fall asleep now. But during a walking meditation retreat, he was invited to move slowly, to feel each breath, each step. To his surprise, simply slowing down also slowed his mind. That night, for the first time in years, he allowed sleep to come naturally without rushing. Science confirms this. The human body has a natural circadian rhythm. Living too fast disrupts it, leading to insomnia. But when you practice slow activities, breathing, meditation, mindful walking, the nervous system shifts back into rest. You can try tonight. Slow down each action before bed, brush your teeth slowly, drink water slowly, pull up the blanket slowly. Let every gesture be a tiny meditation. Whisper to yourself, "I don't need to rush, I have enough time to rest." Letting go of the rush does not make you lose opportunities. On the contrary, it gives you a gift: deep sleep, true peace, and a morning filled with real energy. Some people don't just try to control their days, they also try to control their dreams. Have you ever laid down and thought, "I must not have bad dreams, I must only dream good dreams, I must stay in control of my sleep"? That pressure itself turns the night into another battlefield, one where you are not allowed to be vulnerable, not allowed to dream wrong. Buddhism reminds us, dreams are only reflections of the mind, not enemies. You don't need to control them, you only need to let them come and go, like clouds drifting across the sky. The Buddha once taught, "All phenomena are like a dream, like an illusion, like a dewdrop, like a flash of lightning. These words apply not only to life, but also to the dreams within it. Picture a young woman in San Diego. She often suffered from nightmares and grew afraid of falling asleep. She tried to force only good dreams, but the more she struggled, the harder it became to rest. Then, at a retreat, her teacher said, "Even your dreams can be your teachers. Do not control them. Simply observe." That night, instead of resisting, she whispered, "I allow my dreams to come and go." She still dreamed, but the dreams felt lighter, and when she woke, her heart felt freer. Science supports this approach. Research on lucid dreaming in the US shows that people who meet their dreams with openness rather than trying to control them are less haunted by nightmares and fall into deeper rest. You can try tonight. When fear of a bad dream arises, take a breath and say, "I don't need to control my dreams. I allow my mind to be free." If a troubling dream appears, treat it like a short film on a passing screen. You are simply the quiet audience, not the actor inside. Letting go of dream control not only brings more peaceful sleep, it also offers a deeper lesson. True freedom comes when you accept what lies beyond your reach. And in that freedom, even dreams can become a place of rest. One of the heaviest chains that keeps people awake at night is the obsession with what others think. Have you ever laid in bed replaying the day in your head? Did I sound foolish when I said that? Did people laugh at my photo? Do they really like me? This constant worry about other people's opinions robs your heart of freedom, and when the heart isn't free, sleep can't be peaceful. Buddhism reminds us, the thoughts of others are not in your control. The Buddha once said, "People may say anything. What matters is that you know who you are." If you cling to opinions, you live inside an invisible cage. But if you let go, you discover true freedom even in your sleep. Picture an office worker in Chicago. She spent hours worrying about whether co-workers judged her harshly. Each night, that worry returned and kept her restless. Then, in a meditation class, she heard, "You cannot control another's mind, but you can choose your own attitude." That night, she whispered, "I am not other people's thoughts. I am myself." And she slept not because the outside world had changed, but because she no longer needed to prove herself. American psychology also shows that people who depend heavily on social approval often struggle with anxiety and insomnia. But those who practice self-acceptance and mindfulness tend to sleep deeper and more steadily. You can try this tonight. When the mind asks, "What will they think?" take a deep breath and answer, "They have the right to think. I have the right to rest." Repeat until you feel a gentle ease in your chest. Letting go of control over what others think doesn't make you careless. It helps you live more honestly, love more freely, and when you lay your head down with a free heart, sleep becomes proof that real freedom isn't found in pleasing everyone, it's found in peace within. Another powerful shadow that keeps many Americans awake is the fear of failure. You might lie in bed, but instead of resting, your mind keeps whispering, "What if I ruin this project? What if I don't meet expectations? If I fail, I'll lose everything." That fear tightens the body, speeds the heart, and pushes sleep further away. But Buddhism reminds us, failure is not the enemy, it is a natural part of growth. The Buddha said, "Failure is the path to wisdom, just as ashes prepare the way for new fire." This means that by letting go of fear, you open the door to learning, and that learning is the truest form of success. Imagine an athlete in California. For weeks before big competitions, he couldn't sleep, haunted by fear of defeat. In mindfulness training, his coach reminded him, "You don't control the result. You only control how you show up." That night, instead of spiraling in worry, he whispered, "I allow myself to fail. I allow myself to learn." Sleep came like a fresh start, preparing him to compete with calm and courage the next morning. Science agrees. When failure is accepted as natural, stress hormones drop and deep sleep improves. people with a growth mindset suffer far less insomnia than those trapped by perfectionism and fear of mistakes. You can try tonight. When fear of failure rises, breathe in and say, "Failure does not define me. Failure teaches me." Breathe out and say, "I release fear. I choose rest." Letting go of fear doesn't make you passive. On the contrary, it gives you freedom, clarity, and courage. Sleep is no longer a haunted place. It becomes a wellspring of renewal, restoring you for the journey ahead. Many people in America do not lose sleep because of failure, but because of an obsession with success. You may lie down in bed, but in your head a voice still echoes, "Tomorrow I must win. I must hit the target. I must prove that I am capable." This pressure may look like motivation, but in truth it becomes a chain. Because even when you achieve something, the mind quickly sets a new goal, and sleep never comes naturally. Buddhism reminds us, success is not a destination, but the full presence in every step you take. The Buddha once taught, happiness is not found at the end of the road, but in every step you are taking. This means that when you let go of the obsession with success, you are not abandoning your dreams. You are simply stopping the habit of making results the only measure of your worth. Imagine a young entrepreneur in New York. He works tirelessly, losing sleep every night because of numbers, contracts, and achievements. But during a meditation retreat, he hears the teacher say, "You are not successful only when you reach your goal. You are already successful when you live fully each day." That night, he tried whispering, "I allow myself to rest." Success does not disappear in sleep. And sleep came not because he gave up his goals, but because he stopped trying to control them. Modern psychology also shows this truth. People with a high obsession for success often have elevated cortisol, the stress hormone, which leads to insomnia. In contrast, those who focus on the process instead of the outcome sleep more deeply and with less anxiety. You can try this tonight. When lying down, instead of thinking, "I must succeed," breathe in and say, "I am present today." Breathe out and say, "Tomorrow will come when it comes." Each breath becomes a reminder. Success is not stolen by sleep. Success is nurtured through rest itself. Letting go of the need to control success does not make you less ambitious. It makes you balanced, someone who knows that rest is also part of the journey. And in that sleep, you restore the energy to pursue even greater dreams. Not every sleepless night comes from a clear reason. Sometimes it arises from invisible, vague fears, fears with no name. You may lie down with no specific problem, yet your heart beats fast, your breath feels heavy, and your mind waits as if some danger is about to appear. Buddhism calls this state fear born from delusion, images and stories created by the mind, not from reality. The Buddha once said, "The greatest enemy is not out there, but in the mind that has not been tamed." These vague fears are often legacies of the past, a sad memory, an old wound, or even unconscious beliefs from childhood. They rise when the night falls, because in the silence outside, the mind suddenly has space to whisper. Imagine a young woman in Seattle. By day she seems fine, but every night she loses sleep because of a vague sense of unease. There is no clear reason, only the feeling that something is about to happen. In a meditation class, she is guided. When nameless fear appears, shine the light of your breath on it. Call it by name, "This is fear," and then breathe with it. That night, she tried whispering, "Hello, fear. I see you. You are just a feeling, not the truth." Slowly, the trembling in her heart calmed, and she drifted into sleep. Neuroscience in America also confirms this. When you label an emotion, the brain reduces activity in the amygdala, the alarm center, and increases activity in the prefrontal cortex, the reasoning center. In other words, simply recognizing fear already makes it weaker. You can try this tonight. When a vague unease arises, instead of pushing it away, breathe deeply and say, "This is fear. I see you. You will pass." Exhale and let your body sink into the bed. Like dark clouds passing across the sky, invisible fear also fades when you no longer cling to it. Letting go of nameless fear does not mean you will never feel uneasy again. It only means you no longer let that unease control your night. You become the observer, and in that observation, peace returns. One of the silent reasons many people lie awake at night is the desire for others to change according to their wishes. Have you ever gone to bed, but your mind was still busy with thoughts like, if he would just care more, everything would be better. If she would listen, things would be different. If my child followed my way, our family would finally be at peace. These desires may seem reasonable, but in truth, they are the chains that rob you of peace. Because the reality is, you cannot change another person. You can only change how you see and how you respond. The Buddha once taught, the wise do not try to bend the wind, but learn to adjust the sail. This means that instead of exhausting yourself trying to force others into your mold, you can learn to accept them as they are and adjust your own heart to live in harmony. Imagine a woman in Houston. She lost many nights of sleep, wishing her husband would change his messy habits. She grew angry and felt disrespected, but after attending a meditation retreat, she tried a new way. Whenever frustration arose, she breathed and reminded herself, he is like this. I can choose a different response. Instead of constant arguments, she focused on patience and gratitude for the good things her husband brought into her life. And something remarkable happened. The tension in the house began to fade, and her sleep grew calmer. Psychological research also shows that relationships based on acceptance, rather than control, are linked to greater satisfaction and better sleep. When you stop demanding that others must change, you give both people the space to grow naturally. You can try this tonight. When your mind starts judging, they must be different, take a breath and say, I accept you as you are. Breathe out and say, I choose peace. Letting go of the need to control others does not mean tolerating everything. It means you stop chaining yourself to unrealistic expectations. You love with acceptance, and in that acceptance, the door opens to restful, peaceful sleep. One of the deepest fears that keeps people awake at night is the fear of death. You may lie down in bed, close your eyes, yet instead of peace, the mind whispers, what if I don't wake up? What if death comes suddenly? I'm not ready. Such thoughts tighten the body, quicken the heartbeat, and make sleep fragile. Buddhism views death not as an enemy, but as a natural part of life's cycle. Birth, aging, sickness, death are the four marks no one can escape. The Buddha once taught, those who remember death each day will know how to live more fully. This teaching is not meant to plant fear, but to remind us, accepting death is also learning how to truly live. Imagine an elderly man in Florida. He often lost sleep, haunted by the thought that death was drawing near. One day, he attended a chanting service, where a monk said, sleep itself is a form of letting go. Each night, you die in sleep, and each morning you are reborn. That evening, he tried to see sleep as a small rehearsal for death, releasing, surrendering, trusting, and he slept, not in fear, but in gentle acceptance. Neuroscience in the US also shows that people who accept death tend to experience less nighttime anxiety and better sleep quality. When the mind stops resisting, the body can enter its natural state of rest. You can try this tonight. When the fear of death arises, instead of pushing it away, breathe and say, death is part of life. Sleep is my practice in letting go. Each breath becomes a reminder that you don't need to control life's limits. You only need to live and rest fully in this very moment. Letting go of the fear of death does not make you careless. It makes you free to sleep peacefully tonight and to live wholeheartedly tomorrow, no longer chained by what is inevitable. One of the hidden worries that keeps many Americans awake at night is the obsession with time. You may lie down in bed, and instead of relaxing, the mind whispers, how many years have I wasted? How much time do I have left? What must I do to make sure I don't waste my life? These thoughts pull you into a spiral of regret about the past and anxiety about the future, while the only real time you truly have, the present moment, slips away. Buddhism reminds us, no one can control the length of life, but everyone can choose the depth of each moment. The Buddha once said, "One day lived with awareness is more valuable than 100 years lived in ignorance." This means that instead of counting years, you can focus on living fully in each day, each breath, each moment. Imagine a woman in San Francisco. She often lost sleep, haunted by the thought that her youth was slipping away too quickly. But after attending a retreat, she was invited to practice differently. Each night, instead of dwelling on what was gone or how much time remained, she whispered, "Today, I have lived. I am grateful for this moment." That night, she fell asleep in gratitude, no longer trapped in regret. Psychological studies in the US also show that those who practice mindful living, being present in the here and now, experience less anxiety about aging and time, and they sleep better. Because they don't carry the weight of the clock into bed, they carry presence. You can try this tonight. When the thought arises, "How much time do I have left?" Take a deep breath and say, "I have this moment." Breathe out and say, "I live it fully." Each repetition is a reminder that while you cannot add more days to your life, you can add more life to each day. And when you sleep in that awareness, you are no longer haunted by the ticking clock, you are embraced by the natural flow of time. There are nights when sleeplessness doesn't come from work, money, or relationships, but from something deeper, the feeling of being utterly alone in the vast universe. You may lie down, staring at the dark ceiling, while the mind whispers, "I am so small, no one truly understands me, I'm just a speck of dust lost in infinity." Buddhism reminds us, nothing exists in isolation. In each breath you take, there is air from the trees, clouds that became rain, sunlight that warmed the earth. Every cell in your body carries the imprint of your parents, your ancestors, and the universe itself. The Buddha once taught, "In a single drop of water, we see the whole ocean. In a single breath, we see the entire cosmos." This means you have never truly been alone. You are part of an invisible, endless web of connection. Imagine a young man in Arizona. He often lost sleep because he felt meaningless in such a vast world. But one evening, during a meditation class, he was guided. When you feel lonely, look at the night sky. Realize that you too are a star shining within this great web of connection. That night, he stepped outside, lifted his gaze to the stars, breathed deeply, and whispered, "I am not lost. I belong." For the first time, he slept in the embrace of the universe. Modern science agrees. Studies in the US show that those who practice the cosmic perspective, seeing themselves as part of the larger whole, experience less anxiety, less insomnia, and a greater sense of meaning in life. You can try this tonight. Before sleep, close your eyes and imagine yourself resting among millions of stars. Breathe in and say, "I am part of the whole." Breathe out and say, "I am connected." Letting go of loneliness does not mean you must always have someone beside you. It means realizing that even when you are alone, you are supported by the earth, the sky, the air, and the unseen love that surrounds you. And with this awareness, you can sleep peacefully like a child cradled in a mother's arms. Another reason many people lie awake at night is their attachment to memories. You may close your eyes, yet old memories rush back, a joyful moment you don't want to let go of, or a painful one you can't stop regretting. Whether happy or sad, those memories keep you in the past, preventing you from resting in the present. Buddhism reminds us, the past exists only in your mind. It is like a movie that has already finished, lingering only on the screen of your thoughts. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past. Do not dream of the future. Concentrate the mind on the present moment." This doesn't mean you must forget everything. It means shifting perspective. Memories are no longer chains, but teachers. A beautiful memory can be a source of gratitude. A painful one can be a lesson in growth. Imagine a woman in Chicago. She often lost sleep because she clung to the happy days with her late husband. Each night, she wept, holding tightly to those old images. But in a meditation retreat, she heard her teacher say, "Love does not vanish into memory. It is alive in every breath you take." That night, instead of crying with regret, she placed her hand on her heart and whispered, "Thank you, memory. I allow you to be my strength, not my chain." And she slept, wrapped in gentle peace. Psychology research in the US also shows that people who know how to reframe memories, turning them into gratitude rather than regret, suffer less insomnia and anxiety, because they no longer resist the past, but reconcile with it. You can try this tonight. When a memory arises, take a deep breath and say, "Thank you for teaching me." As you exhale, say, "I release you so I may rest." Letting go of attachment to memories does not mean losing them. It simply means carrying forward the essence, the love, the lessons, the gratitude, while allowing the rest to dissolve. And in that release, you can sleep as if held by the memory itself, but no longer bound by it. One of the biggest reasons millions of Americans lose sleep is money worries. You may lie down in bed, but the mind keeps spinning. How will I pay the bills this month? What if I lose my job? What if an economic crisis hits? How will I survive? Money becomes a ticking clock in your head, making the heart race and keeping sleep far away. Buddhism does not deny the role of money, but the Buddha reminded us, money is only a tool, not the source of happiness. He once said, "True wealth is knowing contentment. Those who know contentment always live in freedom." This means you can work hard to make a living, but you don't need to let money define your peace. Because the truth is, when the mind is no longer haunted by lack, you can feel abundance in a single breath. Imagine a father in Detroit. He worked hard yet lost sleep every night, worried he wouldn't have enough to support his family. One day, at a meditation class, he heard these words, "You can spend your whole life worrying and not add a single day to it, but one mindful breath can give you peace right now." That night, he placed his hand on his heart, breathed deeply, and whispered, "I have this family. I have this home. I am complete in this moment." And for the first time in months, he slept in peace. Behavioral finance research in the US also shows excessive financial worry leads to chronic insomnia and higher risk of depression. Yet people who practice gratitude journaling, writing down what they already have, sleep better, even if their finances aren't perfect. You can try this tonight. When financial worries arise, breathe in and say, "I have done my best." Breathe out and say, "I choose to rest." The bills may still be there. The numbers may not yet add up, but your sleep doesn't need to be stolen by them. Rest restores your strength, giving you more clarity to face tomorrow. Letting go of financial anxiety doesn't mean being careless. It means trusting. Even in difficulty, you are supported by life, by community, by love around you. And in that trust, sleep itself becomes an act of courage. Another common reason many Americans struggle to sleep is obsession with personal achievement. You may have worked all day, yet when you lie down the mind still whispers, "Did I hit my KPIs? Am I doing as well as my co-workers? Have I reached the milestones I set?" Instead of resting, you turn the night into another competition where sleep is dangled like a prize on a scoreboard. Buddhism reminds us, your true worth is not in achievements, but in presence. The Buddha once taught, the measure of a person is not what they achieve, but whether their mind is at peace. Imagine a lawyer in Washington, D.C. She worked tirelessly and was professionally successful, yet every night she lay awake, thinking she hadn't done enough. One day, in meditation class, her teacher told her, "You are not a list of achievements, you are the breath flowing through this body." That night, she whispered, "I am not my KPIs, I am not my scoreboard, I am simply me, and I deserve rest. And for the first time in months, she slept peacefully. Psychological studies also show people with achievement-oriented perfectionism often suffer from insomnia because their brain is always in do more mode. In contrast, those who practice self-compassion and mindful detachment sleep better even when all their goals aren't met. You can try this tonight. Before bed, write down 3 things you did today, no matter how small. Then, put the pen down, take a deep breath, and say, I have done enough. I allow myself to rest. Letting go of achievement obsession doesn't mean giving up ambition. It means understanding that achievements are just one part, not the whole of who you are. And when your head touches the pillow, you are no longer the KPI chaser or the deadline runner. You are simply a human being breathing, alive, and in need of rest. In this awareness, sleep stops being a score to achieve and becomes the gift you rightfully deserve, peace without conditions. One of the reasons so many parents in America lose sleep at night is the constant worry about their children's future. You may be lying in bed, but your mind keeps whispering, what school will my child attend? Will they have a stable career? Will they be strong enough to face life's challenges? These questions may sound like love, but when you cling to them too tightly, they become a burden that keeps you from resting. Buddhism reminds us that every person has their own karma, their own path. Parents can guide, care for, and support, but they cannot live life or make choices for their children. The Buddha once taught, each person is the owner of their own karma. That means you can plant seeds of love, but your child will walk through their own harvest season. Trusting that they can do so is the greatest gift you can give. Imagine a mother in Texas. She often lies awake at night, worried that her teenage son might lose his way. Each night, her mind creates worst-case scenarios. Her heart races, and she cannot find peace. One day, during a meditation retreat, she heard her teacher say, "Love is not holding the rope tighter. It is knowing when to let go, so your child can learn to fly." That very night, she whispered, "You have your own path. I believe in you." And she finally slept, not because her worries were gone, but because she knew she had placed her trust in the right place. Psychologists in America confirm this too. Parents who set healthy boundaries and trust their children tend to feel less anxious and sleep more peacefully. At the same time, their children become more independent because they are given the chance to grow. You can try this tonight. When your mind starts building scenarios about your child's future, take a deep breath and say, "I love you. I believe in you." As you exhale, say, "Your future belongs to you." Letting go of control over your child's future does not mean you are careless. It means you love with presence and trust. And when you sleep in that trust, your heart feels lighter, and your child is free to grow in a love that does not bind. There are nights when you do not lose sleep because of tomorrow's worries, but because of the regrets of yesterday. Your mind keeps whispering, "If only I had dared to try, maybe my life would be different. If only I had taken that job, I would have been successful. If only I had held on to that relationship, I would be happier." Those little words, "if only," are like invisible nets that trap you in the past. Buddhism reminds us that everything that has happened is a lesson, not a chain. The Buddha once said, "Do not dwell in the past, for it is gone. Do not chase after the future, for it has not yet come. Only the present moment is life." That means you do not need to deny the opportunities you lost, but you can release them and turn them into wisdom. Instead of saying, "I lost," you can whisper, "I learned." Imagine a man in California. He often lies awake at night, regretting that he missed a big investment opportunity. Every night, he replays the past, blaming himself for being foolish. But one day, during a meditation retreat, his teacher said, "If you could go back, you would do better. But the truth is, you only have this moment to move forward." That night, he whispered, "I release the past, I choose the present." And he finally slept, not because he forgot the opportunity, but because he learned how to let it rest. Psychologists in America point this out as well. Rumination, replaying regrets over and over, is one of the main causes of insomnia. But people who practice cognitive reframing, seeing experiences as lessons rather than losses, are less haunted by the past and sleep more deeply. You can try this tonight. When a lost opportunity returns to your mind, take a deep breath and say, "I thank the past for what it taught me." As you breathe out, say, "I choose to live fully in the present." Each breath becomes a bridge, carrying you out of the shadows of regret and back into the light of the present. And in that light, sleep comes to you like a gentle friend. Another deep reason many Americans lie awake at night is excessive craving. Not simple wanting, but obsession. I will only be happy when I have a bigger house. I will only feel safe when I have more money. I will only feel complete when I find the perfect partner. These cravings are like a thirst that never goes away. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. And sleep turns into a luxury, because the mind is always racing toward not enough. Buddhism calls this tanha, the craving, the very root of suffering. The Buddha once said, "There is no fire like the fire of desire. There is no river that is ever filled like the river of craving." This does not mean you must abandon every wish. It simply means learning to see your cravings without letting them control you. You can dream, you can strive, but at the same time, you can recognize that you are already enough in this very moment. Imagine a businessman in Los Angeles. He has everything, a home, a car, a career, yet every night he still cannot sleep because he craves more: a new deal, a greater reputation. One day, he heard a meditation teacher say, "If you cannot see that you are enough now, you will never see yourself as enough." That night, he whispered, "I am complete in this breath." And for the first time, he slept peacefully, not because he gave up his dreams, but because he stopped letting them devour his peace. Neuroscience in America also confirms this. Excessive craving activates the brain's reward center, but when those desires are unmet, it creates stress and insomnia. On the other hand, practicing gratitude, being thankful for what you already have, helps the brain release serotonin and melatonin, the very hormones that support restful sleep. You can try this tonight. As you lie down, instead of thinking about what you do not have, take a deep breath and say, "I am enough." As you breathe out, say, "I allow myself to rest." Letting go of excessive craving does not take away your motivation. It sets you free, so that sleep is no longer a race to win, but a peaceful place to rest. We have traveled a long journey together, from letting go of the emotions of others, comparisons, loneliness, financial worries, all the way to the fear of death. Each lesson reminds us of one truth: peace does not come from control, but from release. When you learn to lay down what does not belong to you, you do not only find sleep, you also find freedom in every moment of life. The Buddha once taught, "Letting go is the path to peace." And tonight, you have walked that path, step by step, breath by breath. Now, before you drift into sleep, place your hand over your heart and whisper, "I release what I cannot control. I choose peace. I choose rest." Let this mantra become the final lullaby for your soul. Let tonight become the doorway, where you are no longer imprisoned by worries, regrets, or fears, but embraced by the peace that has always lived within you. And when you wake in the morning, you will see that change was not just in your dream, it began tonight in your very heart.